Hi, this is Dee, and you are listening to my podcast, Let Me Clear My Throat. In today's episode, it might be a little controversy, actually. I am not here to offend anybody with this podcast or get anybody upset or cause a big argument or anything. So over the years, I have had some questions, more so here lately. And I got to thinking the other day, there are so many things that we in general as a society as a whole have in common. However, if you break it down into what is across the board 100% in common that everybody has, that there is no alteration in it, if you will, and that is death. We all have death in common. Now, I was thinking, okay, maybe we got two things, life and death, but that's not true, because there are some individuals, some people that never are born, but yet they die. So the only thing I believe we have in common is death. And that being said, there's a lot of controversial opinions about life, death, the afterlife, God, Jesus, Adam and Eve, the Bible, the way of life, the commandments, evolution. The list goes on and on, depending on your faith, your religion, your belief, your personal experiences, whatever. There's a variety of different types of opinions, obviously, throughout the world. And while some people believe just in evolution, some people believe in Christianity. Some are Catholic, some are Baptist, some are Muslims. There's all kinds of different arrays of religion and beliefs. And honestly, I don't know them all. And I'm not going to pretend that I do. But I have been asking some questions, and I believe in God. And I am having a lot of questions on everything else. Because in doing some research in it, it is mind-boggling on some of the manipulations that have occurred over the years on something that's supposed to be so sacred. And, some people don't believe in heaven and hell. Some people believe we're living in hell and dying is heaven. Some people believe in evolution. Some people believe that Jesus is not the Son of God. Some people believe he is. I believe one gentleman, that I forget what his faith was, they were having a conversation. He was having a conversation with my parents one day, and he said that he doesn't believe that Jesus is the Son of God. He believes that Jesus was a prophet, but he wasn't the Son of God. So there's a lot of questions and a lot of controversy out there. So my thing is kind of, a lot of this is a lot of questions I have. And I have pulled up a website here that actually just kind of come across when I typed in a certain, obviously search engine words or whatever, it brought me up different things. But I don't really think I need to go into a lot of research in the facts of inventing questions, because I have plenty. And I don't, how am I going to say this? Since I've been asking questions, I have confused myself even more, because I'm a huge overthinker, and I analyze a lot, and I dissect things and I look at things different ways, and so in doing so, it actually confuses me more. But yet, in the end, it kind of makes sense. And then, okay, before I get all jumped around here, let's just get started, and we'll just go along as we go along, and we'll just see where we're at. And then maybe I can elaborate more No, I know I will elaborate more on my questions because that's the whole point of this podcast. So, in this particular podcast, we are going to talk about God and the Bible, evolution, questions, a little bit of everything that has to do with our soul, our lives, our morals, our beliefs, our religion, our faith. I guess that's kind of the same. But not really, because you can be religious and not have faith, right? See? So anyway, we're just going to get started, okay? So, what I put into the search engine that got this page tonight started, because I've actually been looking at other ones, I put in how many times has the Bible been rewritten? Now, according to holyscript.com, its answer is multiple times since it was first written. Each time it was rewritten, it was changed slightly to fit the needs at that time. It is a fluid document that has been adapted to the changing needs of humanity. There are over hundreds of versions in dozens of languages all over the world. This is from holyscript.com. Now, my question is this. It says it's written multiple times since it was first written. And it is rewritten to change slightly to fit the needs at the time. And is a fluid document that has been adapted to the changing needs of humanity. And there are hundreds of different versions. Now, I can understand the dozens in different languages. That part I understand. It's all the rest above I'm kind of having trouble with. Because this is my thing. If there's a Bible, isn't there supposed to be one Bible? Why are there so many different versions, if you will? Shouldn't there only be one Holy Bible? Shouldn't there be only one word documented of God? And if that's the case, then why are there so many different versions? And why is the Bible being rewritten by humanity? Why is society and whoever thinks it's okay to rewrite what is supposed to be sacred of Jesus and God and our reason and our answers and our way of life and our morals and everything to get into heaven or to be damned to hell? This Bible is supposed to be our middle part of our Holy Grail of what is going to determine whether or not we go to heaven or if we go and spend eternity in hell. And because of this, humanity has taken it upon themselves to, and I'm going to say this respectfully, but not, quote unquote, play God and tamper with my soul. Who gives them the right to dictate where my soul is going to go based off of their beliefs? Who are they? There should only be one Bible, one version, and if it needs to be in multiple languages, so be it. But who gives the right for somebody to manipulate it and reword it and document it differently, leave some books out of it, change some books in it, and manipulate it to how they want to do it to change with the time? So am I going to go to hell because humanity decided to change the Bible? So I don't really know what was said and what wasn't said. And how do I know that anything is true or not true? I mean, really? And then, I'm reading more on holyscript.com. And there's this article in there dated March 22nd, 2023. And it's written by Hilda Scott. And this in the search engine, it said I typed in how many times the Bible has been rewritten. And in this article, I'm going to read this article. So excuse me as I read this because I'm reading it off my phone because it's just easy for me to do right now. So anyway, it says the Bible has been rewritten many times. Some say that it has been rewritten more than any other book. While the Bible is an ancient book, it has been updated and revised over the centuries. This has led to different versions of the Bible, which can be confusing for people trying to follow the Bible's teachings. And I'm going to tell everybody right now, I'm going to butcher so many words in here, so you can have your little giggle on the side, because if anybody has ever tried to read the Bible, I hope you feel me. And I'm just going to leave it at that. It says, how many times has the Bible been corrected? The text of the Revised Version was based on a different Greek text than that of the King James Version. And as a result, over 30,000 changes were made to the text. And not text messages for the younger generation. They're talking about the writing text in the Bible, the words. Of those changes, and I'm sorry, I don't mean it in a bad way. I'm just saying it's not text messaging. Of those changes, more than 5,000 represent differences between the two texts. So it's saying out of those changes, there are more than 5,000 differences between the versions, if I'm reading that correctly. The Revised Standard Version of the Bible is a Catholic edition that was first published in the mid-1960s. It includes the Old Testament, the New Testament, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, and the Apocrypha? I don't know. I'm not Catholic, and I apologize to any Catholics. Apocrypha, and I'm sure all the Catholics are probably going, yes, I know exactly what you're trying to say. The New Testament was revised in 1971. And I could say these words in my head. I'm going to butcher this word out loud. Deuterocanonical books were added in 1977. How many versions of the Bible are there? This is amazing news. It means that more people than ever before will be able to read and study the Bible in their own language. This will help increase understanding the knowledge of the Bible, and ultimately help more people to come to the saving faith in Jesus Christ. The English Revised Version, was the first and remains the only officially authorized revision of the King James Bible. The New Testament was published in 1881, the Old Testament in 1885, and the Apocrypha, that one word, in 1895. And I do apologize for butchering these words, because I'm sorry. How do we know the Bible is true? Sorry if that was loud in your ear. Despite common skeptical claims that the Bible has often been changed through the centuries, the physical evidence tells another story. The New Testament records... Sorry, let me start that sentence over. It's because this is our American English. Records and records are spelled the same. It just depends on how you say it in the sentence on whether it's going to say. Because I can say the New Testament records or the New Testament records. But it's spelled exactly the same because our English language has to be this complicated. The New Testament records are incredibly accurate. We have copies of the manuscripts, and throughout history, these copies show that the Bible has been transmitted accurately. The Catholic Church removed 14 books which collided with its doctrine and hid them from public view. These are, and I apologize if I butcher these, 1 Ezra, 2 Ezra, Tobit, Judith, the rest of Esther, the Wisdom of Solomon, Ecclesiastics, also known as... Okay, I'm just going to spell it. S-I-R-A-C-H, because our English language has to be complicated, and sometimes the C and the H make a K sound, and sometimes it's a ch sound, and sometimes the H might be silent, because we have to be that complicated. Baruch, Baruch, with the, oh goodness, Epistle Jeremiah. That's what I'm going with. And I do apologize. I'm not trying to make fun of the Bible at all. I really am not. And I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just having difficulty pronouncing some words. Is the Bible historically correct? The Bible is historically accurate book. Even in the smallest of details, this is supported by the many archaeological discoveries made in the past centuries. Every book of the Bible has been supported by these discoveries, proving that the Bible is a reliable source of history. Okay. Let me finish this paragraph. The King James Bible is still considered one of the most accurate and let me start that sentence over. The most accurate and authoritative translations of the Bible. It has been used by Christians for centuries and continues to be one of the most popular versions of the Bible today. Okay. Now, this is saying that the Bible is accurate. But then up here, it's saying, let me go up here. Where is it at? I'm scrolling up here. 30,000 changes made and 5,000 differences. So, but then down here it's saying it's accurate and hasn't changed. But then it says down here that the Catholic Church removed 14 books and hid them from public view. But then it says it's still considered one of the most accurate translated. Okay. So supposedly the Bible's still accurate. Even all that stuff was said above. Who wrote the original Bible? Moses was believed to be the single author of the text known as the Torah. The Torah is the central holiest text of Judaism, and it tells the story of the Exodus in which the Israelites, it's hard to say, I am so sorry. I probably said it right the first time. Israelis. Hey! I said it. In which the no, I can't say it again. Anyway, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just having trouble pronouncing. Israelis were led out of captivity in Egypt by Moses and across the Red Sea to the Promised Land. So it says Moses was the original. The New American Standard Bible is a reliable translation of the Bible, which is especially useful for in-depth study. It uses the same style as the King James Version, but the modern English for words that have changed in meaning over time. Do the original books of the Bible still exist? Now remember above it said that is still accurate. But then above that it said it was changed 30,000 times with 5,000 different differences. So do the original books of the Bible exist? And if I remember correctly, above that it said that it still had the originals. Let me find that, because this is probably going to be, because I skimmed over this before I started reading this. Let's see here. Sorry, I just want to make sure that because this is important. This is probably one of the most important things. This is very important part of living. Let's see. Where did I just see this? Authorized version. Okay. It says that the Bible has often been changed through the centuries, but the physical evidence tells another story. The New Testament records are incredibly accurate. We have copies of the manuscripts throughout history. These copies show that the Bible has been transmitted accurately. So this is the same article. Then down here, let's see here. Where was it at? Sorry. Okay. It says, do the original books of the Bible still exist? The books of the Bible were written and copied by hand on scrolls. No originals survive. In the first copies of the Bible were made in the 2nd century AD. The oldest surviving copy of the Bible is the Codex, I'm going to butcher this and I apologize, Sinaiticus, I'm just going to spell it, Sinaiticus, which was made in the 4th century AD. The King James Version is one of the most popular versions of the Bible in use today. It was first published in 1611 and is also known as the Authorized Version or the King James Bible. The King James Version was translated from the original Hebrew and Greek text by a team of scholars. Okay, if you remember correctly, above, it said that the book was accurate, and I feel like this article has already contradicted itself so many times. There's 30,000 different changes and 5,000 differences, and the Catholic had left some books out and hid them from public view. There were some scripts to back it up, but then said, this is confusing me. Okay, so what are the 45 missing books of the Bible? Now, it just said that it was accurate and all the other stuff. It is believed that this book was written in the 2nd century BC. BC means before Christ. AD means after death, in case somebody was wondering. I forgot to say that. This book contains an account of life of the Esdras, Esdras, a Jewish leader and scholar. It also includes a collection of Jewish wisdom literature, including the books of Tobit, Susanna, Judith, Wisdom of Solomon. The books also include several I really have trouble pronouncing words sometimes. I apologize. I say it in my head, but I can't say it out loud. Apocryphal. Books. I got that word. Including 1 and 2 Esdras, the Book of Enoch, and the Book of Jubilees, and the Gospel of, I don't know, I didn't finish that sentence. Then the next paragraph, it didn't finish that sentence. I don't know what the comes after of. Some Christians accept these books as part of the canon. Let me start this over. I really do apologize. I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm mocking anything. I really am struggling on these words. So like I said, I'm not trying to offend anybody because this is a very serious thing, and I wholeheartedly believe in God. So I'm not trying to make a mockery of anything. These are just difficult words for me to say. I say things better in my head, which is kind of scary, than I do out loud. And with my teeth that I had, if you've been following my podcast, I've only probably had my teeth maybe 6 or 7 months, and I still have problems enunciating some words. So that on top of having trouble saying the words, it causes this. So I just wanted to say that I do apologize. I'm not trying to offend anybody, and I'm not trying to make a mockery of this. Some Christians accept these books as part of the canon of Scripture, while others do not. The Roman Catholic and the Eastern Orthodox churches include them in the Bible, while Protestants generally do not. See, again, I ask, if there's one Bible, why are there so many different versions? I understand the different languages, but why are there different versions? And I don't understand that. Is Adam and Eve based on a true story? It says, this is not true! Exclamation point. Scientists can trace our maternal and paternal lines back to a woman and a man who lived a long time ago, but they are not the biblical Adam and Eve. The biblical manuscripts have been reliably transmitted from the authors to us today. This is because there are other surviving copies of that text to cross-reference for variants. This allows us to see if an ancient text has been corrupted or not. So now this is saying that Adam and Eve are not based on a true story. And our maternal and paternal lines backdate to a man and a woman who lived a long time ago, but are not Adam and Eve. Final words. She writes, the Bible has been rewritten countless times throughout history. The practices and beliefs of early Christians were very different from those of modern Christians. For example, early Christians did not use the Bible as we know it today. Instead, they used what they called Gospels, which were accounts of Jesus' life and teachings. These Gospels were not written down until the late 2nd century or the 3rd century, and they were not compiled into a single book until the 4th century. So in the sense, the Bible has been rewritten many times over the centuries. Okay, so my question with that then, and that was the end of her article. Her little information on the bottom. Hilda Scott is an avid explorer of the Bible and interpreter of its gospel. She is passionate about researching and uncovering the mysteries that lie in the sacred book. She hopes to use her knowledge and her expertise to bring faith in God closer to people all around the world. So this is my questions then. Okay, and I'm going to end it here with I'm going to start here with the last paragraph. So if they didn't have the Bible as we know it today, and they used Gospels, and the Gospels were not written down into a book until the 4th century, then where did the Bible come from? It says Moses wrote it, but then who wrote the Gospels? And the Gospels were supposed to be accounts of Jesus' life and his teachings. Well, shouldn't those be in the Bible? Shouldn't that be the Bible? And if it's the Gospels of his teaching and his life, then how can it be manipulated and I guess maneuvered around if that was the story of his teachings and his life? I don't understand how that is accurate. I guess I don't get that part. If like I said, if the Bible is the Bible, let's just for argument's sake say the Bible is the Bible. Okay? We have one Bible. Then what are all these other versions out there? What are they? And why is the King James Version the most one used? I mean, I'm just saying. So, okay. I got into a conversation with my mom one day. My mom grew up as a Catholic. My mom went to Catholic school. She went to Holy Name. When she married my biological dad, he was a Catholic as well. When my grandfather passed away, he had a Catholic funeral, and he and my grandmother and the rest of their family are buried in a Catholic cemetery. Now, when we were little, okay, let me back up here. When we were born and we were babies, we were baptized as babies because my parents were Catholic. I obviously do not remember this. I was given godparents, and so were my other sisters. I do not know who my other sisters' godparents are, but I know who mine are. And my cousins that are their children. And every time I see them at a funeral, that's usually when we see them. Obviously, we joke around and talk about how, they're my godparents and whatnot. Well, we did not go to church growing up as kids. My parents had got divorced. My mom remarried. And I was, I believe, 9, going on 10, I believe, when my mom and my non-biological dad got married. He is my stepdad, but he was my dad. My biological dad, I do not have a relationship with. I don't have any beef with him, but I don't have a relationship with him. My stepdad was my dad through and through. And he passed away about not even 2.5 years ago. And I miss him very, very much. So when I was a teenager, we started going to a Church of Christ. My stepdad's brother was doing a sermon there, and we went there to go, I guess, moral support, so participate, whatever. And so then we started going to church. And my mom became a Bible school teacher, and we were all eventually baptized. My mom was first, then my stepdad, and then okay, sorry about that. My daughter was calling. So I don't remember exactly where I left off, but I know my mom was baptized, and then my non-biological dad was, and then my sisters and I were. I don't remember the order. But anyway, we started going to church. And we did all the activities, with church. We were very involved. Sunday schools, Bible study camp, all that stuff. And we even went on outings with the teenage group. We all went to Kings Island together and went out as church, community and stuff. So obviously, growing up, we went to church, and we didn't, how do I word this? We didn't study the Bible at home per se, together as a family. We didn't pray at dinner, or anything like that. But, and as I grew up and I got married and I had kids, when I divorced my first ex-husband, I got divorced, I started going back to church. And I took my kids to church. And my son he hated it. He would tell me he didn't believe in God. He believed in evolution. And I said, well, you're entitled to your belief, but you're going to church with me as a family. My youngest daughter, if I remember correctly, she says she doesn't believe in God. And unfortunately, I think a lot of that stems from she wasn't as educated in the church as my other two were because she was so little. And then when I got with my second ex-husband, we had quit going to church. And my youngest daughter and I had went to church a couple of times together when she was a teenager. But we didn't really get back involved with it very much. There was just a lot going on. Not saying that we shouldn't have, but I'm just saying we didn't. And I'm just being straight up honest. There's no point lying about it. We just didn't go like we should have. And so I feel a lot of that with my daughter stems from the lack of exposure and education and knowledge and teachings and all of that. Now, having said that, I have wanted to go back to church. I take care of my mom, and I've asked my mom, obviously, if she want to go to church. My mom is basically almost bedridden. It pretty much is. And so her going to church is not an option. And my mom is very strong on her faith, but also her beliefs. And I respect that. Having said that, my mom and I got into a conversation one evening, and I was telling her that I had some questions. And with her being Catholic before and now being Christian, I had questions. And my first question was basically, how can there be so many different versions of the Bible? Why isn't there just one? I didn't understand that. If there's a Bible, there should only be one Bible. It could be in different languages, but there should be one Bible. And she was more or less, and I don't remember verbatim, and like I said, I'm not trying to offend anybody's faith. This is just me having questions and conversation. And I'm not even going to pretend like I know the Bible in and out and its words and all that. I do not. And I'm not gonna quote scriptures. This is me just talking. So I asked her that, and she was telling me about how the Bible has been rewritten, and that it has changed over the years. A lot of the Catholics have changed the Bible to fit whatever it is that I don't remember what word she used. Whatever they did, their book or whatever. And if this is wrong, I apologize. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember what she called it. But they basically changed the Bible to fit and suit them. And I asked her, how can they do that? Who are they? Why do they have the right to go through and change the Bible? And who is to say which version is the correct version? There's so many to choose from. How do you know if you choose the right one? How do you know if you're doing the right things and following the right word and your soul is dependent on it? And some people believe that Jesus is the Son of God, and some don't. And some believe in evolution, and some don't. Some believe in Adam and Eve, some don't. And this article I just read said it's not true. And there's 30,000 different changes, and 5,000 45 books taken out or something like that, manipulated and changed, but yet it's the most accurate. I don't understand that. And then I read somewhere, and I believe my mom said this too, that I almost want to bring this up here because I want to read it for real on what it was. But my mom brought this up too, because I asked her, we were talking about Christmas. And I probably do need to bring this up and pull it up off there. I was asking her about Christmas and Jesus being born, and how people forget what the meaning of Christmas is supposed to be about, and they make it more about a man who they never saw, that wears a red fuzzy suit, flies magical reindeers all through the world, drops off presents, lives in the North Pole, has all these special powers and whatnot. We're all supposed to believe in him and celebrate him, and they make a big, huge thing about it at the stores and everything. And we're supposed to believe all that. But then they take away the meaning of what it's supposed to be about, and that is Jesus being born on Christmas. Now, I just went ahead and Googled this. And I asked my mom this too. And so that's why I wanted to make sure I Googled it correctly. It says, was Jesus born on December 25th? History proves otherwise. However, and we have historical evidence that unblemished lambs for the temple sacrifice were kept in the fields near Bethlehem during the winter months. With that said, it is impossible to prove whether or not Jesus was born on January 25th, and ultimately it does not matter. And it says the Bible, that was on gotquestions.org. The Bible's most detailed account of nativity is in the New Testament Gospel of Luke. But even that orderly narrative, complete with highly specific references to Roman rulers and a worldwide census, fails to name a day, month, or even a year for Jesus' birth. Jesus was not born on December 25th. When was he born, and why do we celebrate his birth during the Christmas season? This is a question that says, was Jesus born on Christmas Day? This was from coldcasechristianity.com. It says, was the birth of Jesus Christ actually Christ's birthday? The birth of Jesus Christ was a pivotal moment in history and has long been a subject of scholarly debate and theological contemplation. The Nativity of Jesus Christ is traditionally celebrated on Christmas Day, December 25th, but let's look into whether this was actually Jesus' birthday, and that was from Christianity.com. So, I have questions there. And it says, hold on here, let me pull this one up. And I apologize not having all this stuff ahead of time because normally I do, but this was just kind of on a whim because this has just really been on my mind. It says, I pulled up this, hold on here, I'm sorry. On Biblical Archaeology Society, it says December 25th and Christmas. This is an article by Megan Salter, written December 7th, 2022. When did December 25th become a date for Christmas? And it says, when did December 25th become the date for Christmas? In the winter 2022 issue of Biblical Archaeology Review, T.C. Smith argues for an early association of Jesus' birth with December 25th in the article. Calculate Christmas, Apocalypse, and December 25th. He explains why this date was selected. We also caught up with Schmidt later to ask him a few questions about this article. His article begins, many readers will be familiar with the common refrain that December 25th, Christmas, was originally a pagan holiday, perhaps corresponding to the Roman festival of Saturnalia or the feast of the sun god Sol. As the chorus goes, the date was chosen for the birth of Jesus to make Christianity chime with a polytheistic society already attuned to December 25th I'm not going to say this wrong. Let me back up here. Because this is, as the chorus goes, the date was chosen for the birth of Jesus to make Christianity chime with the polytheistic, I know I probably butchered that word, society already attuned to December 25th. Reverly. Revelry. But is the old song true? I myself used to sing this kind of anti-carol, but then, while translating a treatise of Hippolytus, Hippollytus of Rome, I came across a passage stating that Jesus was born on December 25th. Now, Hippolytus, whatever that one words I said wrong, was a Christian author who wrote in the early 3rd century AD, and Saturnalia, and the feast of Saul were not celebrated on December 25th, that early in Roman history. Saturnalia never was, and the feast of Saul only came to be later. So Hippolytus, Hippolytus, Hippolytus? Can I just say Hippolytus? Clearly could not be chosen the date to please pagan sentiments. So they're saying that the guy could not have chosen the date to please. Hold on a minute. Smith goes on to explain why December 25th was selected for Christmas. If not to appropriate pagan festivities, he examines the patristic manuscripts and an inscribed statue, which suggests an entirely different reason. The early church fathers' calendar calculations of Jesus' conception resulted in the date. The early church fathers believed that Jesus was conceived on Passover and born 9 months later. However, they differed in the dates for Passover, which is calculated on the lunar calendar. This resulted in a variety of dates for Christmas, one of which was December 25th. To help readers understand their calculations, Smith analyzes an inscribed statue of, Hippolytus, a 3rd century Christian theological person. I didn't say that part, but I added that part. Theologian. There, that's the word. Currently in the Vatican Library, this portrait... I'm sorry, let me back up here. Sorry. Where was that at? Currently in the Vatican Library, the statue portrays I just said it a minute ago. Hippolytus seated on a chair. Inscriptions from 222 AD appears on the chair's sides and back. One of the inscriptions includes a date for Jesus' conception on April 2nd, 2 BC. 9 months after this date would celebrate Jesus' birth in late December on 2 BC, or early January 1 BC. December 25th falls nicely within that range. Even today, there's a variety of dates for Christmas. Catholic and the Protestant churches celebrate it on December 25th, but Orthodox and Coptic churches celebrate it on January 6th or 7th. Some even celebrate it on January 19th. So, again, what are we supposed to believe? I mean, okay, so this is some of my questions, okay? So let's talk about Jesus' birth, okay? Hypothetically, we're going to say, for argument's sake, that Mary got pregnant with Jesus, and it was not Joseph's baby, okay? But Joseph was supposed to accept that Mary was having a baby by somebody other than her husband, and accept it and be okay with it, based off of that's what he was told to do, by somebody he didn't even know, but was supposed to have faith that this was true. So my thought is this. Was this basically saying Mary stepped out on her husband and got pregnant, and Joseph was supposed to accept it and accept the baby as his own and forgive her? Was it that Jesus was supposed to be God's son and all? And I'm going to say this before I say this, I have prayed so hard to God, and he and I have had, there's been conversation, I am not trying to sound offending. I am not trying to do anything but ask questions. And I, as a child of God, as a human being, as my soul being determined on the process of my questions and my lack thereof knowledge, and humanity manipulating and dictating my beliefs and my purpose and where my soul goes, basically, in their hands, I have the right to ask questions. I have the right to not understand. And I have the right to make those questions be as in-depth and as deep, if you will, as I need them to be. Because I have that right. Because this is my faith. This is me trying to understand. How am I supposed to understand if I don't ask questions? Because if I have relied on humanity to answer my questions, they've done manipulated it and messed that all up. So I'm going to the source, so to speak, because I have that right. Because if I cannot ask him questions directly, who else can I ask? So I don't mean any disrespect. So when I say this, somebody going, oh, because I'm asking questions. So we talked about Mary getting pregnant with another man's child, and he's supposed to forgive her and accept this other baby into his life, based off of faith and good standing from a person he didn't even know that says, hey, have faith in this. This is the way it is. This is my son. And that's supposed to be acceptable. Or was it Mary was forced to be pregnant with a baby that she did not consent to, and a baby was forced upon her, and her husband was to accept what had happened to her and accept this child that was forced upon them without her permission, her consent, and was supposed to accept this child and give this child life without getting and pushing her away, without killing the baby, without, as we call it, aborting the baby. He accepted this baby that was forced upon his wife without her consent and still stayed with this child and raised this child as his own. Or was this also something where mankind was being shown that a baby can happen and a woman can carry a baby and it doesn't have to be done the natural way as a man and a woman? That it's acceptable for a woman to have a baby that basically is artificially inseminated, if you will, because there was no sex involved. And she carried this baby, and her partner, her husband, accepted it. Maybe she was not able to have a child of her own, so she was inseminated with one, the non-traditional way to have a baby. And he accepted this baby, even though it was not physically, I guess, DNA-wise, his. There's different scenarios. Or was this also where Mary got pregnant with the baby without her consent, and mankind was being shown what mankind could do to somebody on violating somebody's, violent raping somebody? Because getting somebody pregnant without their consent is rape. Or actually having sex with somebody, which, from my understanding, God didn't have sex with her, but she was still forced to be pregnant, forced to have a baby. That was not her, it was hers, but she did not consent to it. So is that God's way of showing humanity what mankind is capable of doing? But there's many scenarios there that can come into play there if you want to think it a certain way. Now let's take Jesus, for instance, dying on the cross. So is this God sacrificing his son to pay for the sins of mankind and humanity? Was this people getting away with murder? Murdering a man and hanging him on a cross and killing him? And was God letting people murder his son to show mankind humanity, what mankind was capable of and how far they would take it? That they would literally murder a man by hanging him on a cross by nails and all that other stuff? And that this is what mankind was capable of doing? And my question, I guess, would be, if Jesus died on the cross for our sins, then why do we need to be baptized to have our sins washed away? If Jesus died for our sins on the cross, why do we need to be baptized then to wash our sins away? Now, some say that's to accept the Father, the Son, and Holy Ghost, that you accept that Jesus died on the cross for our sins and you're going to be baptized. I can do all that without not have to be dunked in water. That's supposed to cleanse me and wash my sins off so I can be forgiven. Well, why was I not forgiven when he died on that cross for me? And if you're a baby and you're being baptized, what sins did a baby do to be baptized? What sins did a little bitty baby do? Because what I was taught, and like I said, I've been taught of things, and these are my questions. When you are innocent, like a child, or someone who is mentally challenged, they are like, my granddaughter has Down syndrome. My stepsister has autism. One of my daughters has a learning disability. I have things going on with me. You might have something going on with you. Your neighbor might have something going on. We all have different things going on. But our learning capacity and our learning abilities are all different. So one person might understand, another person might not, and might not never understand it. It depends on what their capability is. Doesn't mean that they're less of a person. Doesn't mean they're dumb and stupid. Because that's not true. There's nobody dumb and stupid in this world. Nobody. Now, people might say, psh, yeah. No, there's not. And how dare you to judge somebody? We are all different. But we all are going to die. So we're all different, but we all have the same destiny. It's the in-between time that we are trying to figure out. So, being innocent and not knowing, does that then base on whether or not you're going to go to heaven or hell? Because how can you be judged at the end of it all on something you don't know? It's like taking a test and getting marks against your test results on questions that weren't even on there. So if you don't know the questions and you don't know the answers, or you didn't even know there needed to be an answer to a question, or a question or an answer to be asked, or a question, whatever, you didn't know, how can you be graded and judged on it? I'm just saying, if that was never, like, it's going to school, we're going to go to school here, and the whole year, at the end of the year, then you're going to have a final. Okay? Through your whole year, you were not taught, let's hypothetically say for argument's sake, and we're going to make it, pretty easy. You were never taught what the true color of blue really was. Let's just say that, okay? But on the end of your final test, It has a picture there of the sky, the blue sky. And it asks you, what color is this? Now, if you were never taught your whole year of learning what the color blue looked like, how would you know what color that is? And if you're colorblind, you might not see it as blue. You might see it in some other color. Depends on what level of colorblind you are, because there are different levels of colorblind. So just because somebody says, hey, this is blue, to somebody else it might be green. It might be gray. You don't know, because you see things differently than somebody else. So is that person supposed to be judged at the end of it all because they see that sky as green because they're colorblind? And who is to say that that is the color blue? Humanity? Oh, hey, this is going to be blue. Somebody woke up one day and said the sky is blue. How did they know? I'm just saying. It's questions that I have. And I have, there's so many of them. And sometimes they get lost in my questions because you can go on and on and on. Like, for instance, Noah. Noah built an ark. It had certain kinds of animals on there. Okay? If they had certain kind of animals on there and only select a few, then how do we got the rest of them? Like, for instance, where did a frog come from? How did a frog get here? Where did a frog come from? It wasn't on, I don't believe it was on the ark. Did they put a frog on the ark? So where did a frog come from? Where did a bee come from? Bees are very vital in survival of the world, from what I understand. They pollinate stuff. We need bees. Where did a bee come from? Where did a mosquito come from? Mosquitoes are one of the leading things of carriers to transfer diseases and stuff. Where did a fly come from? Where did a caterpillar come from and a butterfly? Where did a cockroach come from? Where did an ant come from? A spider? What about a dog or a cat or a possum or a raccoon or a beaver or an armadillo? I'm just saying, where did they come from? They weren't on the ark that I know of. I mean, granted, I wasn't there. But where did it come from? Then people are like, oh, it's evolution. Okay, I believe in evolution, but I believe in God too. And I'll explain why. I believe in evolution because we are evolving every day. And we are getting to the point we're getting too big for our britches. I always say technology is our greatest asset and our biggest demise. But then I look around at the sky that changes colors. It's not always blue. I'll see a rainbow. I'll see clouds. I'll see trees blowing, flowers blooming, bees buzzing, caterpillars. I'll see nature. I'll see birds flying, animals grazing, people walking around, people talking, people laughing, things going on, life, babies being born, love, marriage, education, people learning, people dying. That came from somewhere. Evolution. Did evolution make the sky and the trees? Did evolution make the caterpillar turn into a butterfly? Yeah, that, hey, they evolved. Well, a caterpillar into a butterfly is like the baby conception and, the fetus and so on and so on. Then it goes to a baby, then a toddler, then an adolescent, then a teenager, then an adult. Then you end up classic like me. And then you are basically, then you should be counted as an adult when you get past the classic. But unfortunately, that's when people take our heritage generation, and I just made that up, heritage generation, and take them for granted. And society and the government and manipulation, if you will, is what is shaping and molding our children's and our grandchildren's and our future generational evolution. This might be the government's I don't even want to say that. The government tries to capitalize on God's land, His earth, and the government wants to capitalize on it. I read an article one time. They were selling property on the moon. Selling property on the moon. How can you do that? How can you sell property on Earth? You don't own Earth. Earth is everybody's. You dictate it, but you don't own it. You don't own outer space. That's God's. You're just manipulating it to make money on it and taking from other people. How can you sell property on the moon? How can you sell stars in the sky? But they do. What gives them that right? I mean, I don't understand that. I really don't understand that. And and it's like, okay, we're going to take it back to, because I just thought of something. And I'm really big on trying to remember things and I forget. So then I get really excited when I remember. So before I forget, I'm going to bring it back there. So some other questions I had. So like I said, if I'm wrong on this is just what I've been told through my life, okay? But now I'm to say who's right and who's wrong. But these are questions I have. So let's talk about the end of the world. We're going to talk about heaven and the end of the world. So so they say you don't know the time, the place, or the hour. And I was told by my mom, and I don't know if this is her Catholic days or whatever, that there's 7 levels of heaven. This is my question. You don't know the time, the date, the place, or anything, or how. You don't know the time, date, place, or even how. You die. When you die. You don't know when you're going to die. You don't know what time it's going to be. You don't know what day it's going to be on. You don't know how you're going to die. You don't know. So you don't know when you're going to die. The end of your life. Let's take it farther. We live on a planet. So we're told. We live on a planet. In a galaxy. Where a candy bar is a part of the galaxy. The Milky Way. Okay, that's a joke. But still. A little cheesy. But this is what we're told. What if we live on a planet, but we all have our own world? You ever heard somebody say, I'm sorry, I'm in my own world? We all each have our own world, our own life. So you don't know the time, the place, how, or when or why or anything you're going to die. And then your world as you know it, is over. Because you die. Now, what if the 7 levels of heaven are the different days of the week? There's 7 days in a week. So maybe depending on what day you die will depend on what level of heaven you're in. So what if the end of the world isn't the end of the world per se, the planet? It's you. The end of the world is you. You are your world. You don't know the time, the date, how, when, why, where, what. You don't know. All you know is when you die, your world is over. Now what? Let's just hypothetically say, for argument's sake, we're living in hell. They say no tears in heaven, no sorrow, no pain. You don't age. You don't know grief. What if we're living in hell? And when we die, that's heaven. Because when you're dead, there's no tears, there's no aging, there's no sorrow, there's no pain. There's none of that because you're gone. So what is death is supposed to be heaven, and depends on what day you die on. It depends on the level, I guess, per se, that you're on, which every day is a level of heaven, because every day God made a new day. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and Saturday. God made each day, so that's each day of heaven, and we are making it hell. We are manipulating God's world, and His world is us. And we are manipulating God's heaven and making it our own selfish place to live and turning it into hell. And we are getting too big for our bridges that we're going to end up blowing our earth up by trying to play God. These are some of my questions. And quite honestly, it scares the bejeebies out of me. But I will say this, and I've said it before in my other podcasts. I believe strongly in God. And I know when my dad died, he and my mom were up making meatballs at 10:30 in the morning. I was homesick. My mom is blind. At the time, she could walk. They were making meatballs at 10:30 in the morning. By noon, he had done died and they were taking him off. Not even an hour. He was gone. I had to give him CPR. They gave him CPR for 45 minutes on top of me. He had a heart attack. And the next day we went to the funeral home. And they hadn't done nothing to him yet. He said, put him in the freezer. And we went there to go make arrangements. And they brought him out of the freezer. Had him in the office between two desks. He would have got a kick for all that. I walked over to him. I have known that man since I was about 8 years old. That man has been through a lot. He was a hard worker. He was a hillbilly, West Virginia hillbilly. Provider. Family man. Was a real family man. Like, he put my mom first. My mom was way above there. I always laughed and said if God was coming back for Judgment Day and my mom wanted something to drink, he would be like, excuse me for a minute. She needs something to drink. Can you wait a minute? Because he always put my mom first. And he had so many heart attacks. He had a defibrillator in. When he was 50 years old, he was fishing. He was fishing with my ex-brother-in-law, actually. He was about 2.5 hours from home. And he said he wasn't feeling good. He was going to head home, and he wasn't feeling good. And my ex-brother-in-law was like, "No, you okay?" Him and his wife were Marines. They were retired. I guess, they were retired from the service. And he was like, I'm not feeling good. I'm going to lay down here for a minute. And he said that he remembered seeing a commercial. If you think you're having a heart attack, take an Excedrin or an aspirin. And I think he said he took like 5 of them or something. He took a bunch of them. And which might have been what saved his life. That and my ex-brother-in-law. He went to go lay down, and my ex-brother-in-law was like, "Bub, I think you're having a heart attack. I'm going to get you to the hospital." So he took him down to the hospital. And him being who he was like, "I got to go. I need to get home to my wife." And the nurse said, "Well, I'm telling you now, if you walk out them doors, you're going to die." And he was like, nit side humor. He said, "Well, I guess I better not do that. My wife would kill me." I don't think he realized what he was... I don't know if he realized what he was saying or not. And he's like, "I guess I better stay." They had to get him stabilized because they had to lifeline him to the hospital. He had to be lifelined. He got off the helicopter, and he looked like death rolling through the hallway. He was 50 years old at that time. He had massive heart attacks. He had a defibrillator put in. He had stents done. The bottom of his heart was not working. It was dead. He had an aneurysm in his heart. Not to mention the other things going on with him. But that man still worked, busted butt, and took care of my mom. He and I would work on cars together. All the time getting into projects and making a mess or making something. All the time doing his yard, big on his yard work. He was always on the go. He was at work one time. He did heat and air. He was doing a job at a gas station. His defibrillator went off and took him to his knees. He was having a heart attack in the middle of a job. He's at the doctor's office and they were doing a stress test on him. And he didn't understand why all the nurses came in there and was doting all over him. He was going into cardiac arrest, didn't even realize it. His defibrillator kicked in. When he had his heart attack that day, I was giving him CPR. It spaced my mind about his defibrillator until it lit up. I was like, oh yeah, forgot you had that. It went off a few times, actually. My point being is, that man had been through so many moments of his world coming to an end. And by the grace of God, some amazing human beings in this world and technology, that man lived until he was 72. 71 or 72. And he had a heart attack. And that next day when I saw him on that gurney coming out of that freezer, since I had known that man since I was 8 years old, that was the first time in my whole life that man looked amazing. He was so beautiful. He had this glow about him. He looked the healthiest I had ever saw him in my life. And he was dead. Everybody at that funeral talked about how wonderful he looked. That man took his last breath with me. And you know, it has taken me a long time to get through the trauma of that day. And the thing that got me through it was remembering that day. But remembering it as an outsider. Looking in, so to speak. I always say, you put it in God's hands. Put it in God's hands. But then I think, God gave me 2 hands for a reason. And I believe that I was where I was supposed to be. Home from work sick. To be here from when I needed to be here. Because my mom is blind. And my mom is in very bad health. It'd be easier for me to tell you what's not wrong with her than to tell you what is. Had I not been here, my mom would have been blindly trying to figure out what the hell was going on with her husband. Not being able to see. Being helpless. Panicking. Her husband dying. She would not even known. She wouldn't even known. Then she would have been left alone. and there to figure it out all by herself. But I thank God so much that she wasn't. I was there for her. I was there for him. He told my mom, go get Dee. I need her. More or less, he was like, go get Dee. Please be careful. Because he knew it was hard for my mom to go get me. She hollered, and finally I heard her. But by the grace of God, I was home that day sick. I called 911. I gave him CPR. I called my aunt and my daughter and my sister. My mom just had to mourn the loss of her husband, which was more than what she needed to do. And God gave me two hands for a reason. They were to give my dad CPR until the medics got there, until God could take it from there. Just long enough to be able to have those same two arms to hold on to my mom. And not let go of me. He had me. And he had my mom. So I believe there is God. And I question, if Jesus was the Son of God. It says we're not supposed to have symbols. Nobody knows what God looks like. But everybody, I don't mean this disrespectfully, idolizes Jesus. And symbolizes it with a cross and other things. Now maybe that's a reminder of, not really a symbol per se, if you want to go there. But what if we're wrong? What if Jesus was not the Son of God, was not born on Christmas, and we have been manipulated our whole life? And it says not to basically idolize another god. So all the people in the world have their own versions of their God. But if there's only one God, how can there be so many gods? Is there not only one God? Or is there one God per Bible? And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I don't know. But my thought is this for me. I believe in God. I am unsure of everything else. That being said, I pray to God. I've changed the way I pray. But I've had conversations with God. And praying that He understands and forgives me if I'm wrong. But also I thank Him for allowing me to have questions. Because as a child of God, how else am I going to learn if I don't ask the Father questions. If I can't go to him, who can I go to? If I am a child of God, then I should be able to go to my Father. Not my dad. My Father. And if Jesus is his son, and I'm a child of God, does it make Jesus my brother? And all due respect, my brother's better than me? I'm a child of God's too. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. These are questions I have. Actually, I just thought of that question just now. But these are questions I have. But then I think, people question on whether to pray or not. Yeah, I don't pray. I don't believe in God. I don't pray. What would it hurt? What would it hurt to believe in something good? We have so much negativity, so much evil, so much bad going on in this Earth planet that we live on, and in the rest of the galaxy, that when something good is there, why isn't it worth believing in more than the bad? What would it hurt to believe in a father, a being that we have never saw, that is supposed to have created this wonderful planet that we live on? Beautiful nature everywhere. There's some amazing places in this world, this earth, to see. Some gorgeous places. I know I'll never get the chance to see them because I don't fly. But there are some amazing places. But then there's also an amazing place in my backyard. Everywhere is a miracle. We have technology that mankind and humanity have created based off of skill, knowledge, and the good gracious of God, giving them the ability to be who they are. We can't believe in that kind of good, but we can believe in the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, and our family, and the government. We can believe in all them that have, not proved us wrong, have they? Always have our best interests on heart, right? We believe them. The government's selling property on the freaking moon. Family only want to talk to you at funerals and weddings, and unless you find unless you find a really good person to marry, husbands and funerals to me are the same thing. Either way, your life is over. And that's just a dry joke, but unless you find the right person. But to me, funerals and weddings are the same thing. Your life is over either way. But anyway, that's just crude humor, but to me it's funny. Focused. Where was I? What would it hurt to believe in God and pray to Him and be thankful for your blessings and be thankful for your family and give prayer to, please watch over us, please protect us, please give us strength, please, help me to, remember my self-worth and to be stronger and give me the tools that I, help me find the tools that I need. However you pray, what would it hurt What would it hurt to say thank you? What would it hurt to say, I've done something wrong. Please forgive me. Please forgive me of my sins and my wrongdoings. Don't you tell people when you make mistakes that you're sorry? Why can't you tell your father you're sorry? What would it hurt? We got Mother Nature. That's what we call her, Mother Nature. How do you know it's a female? Because what? Nature is bipolar? Some say anyway. Or is it because mankind has manipulated with our technology and our going to outer space and all the other things that we're doing in this world, and we're messing up our ozone and our planet that God has been so graciously blessed us with? And we're messing it up. We're taking advantage of it. We are taking down miracles to put up landscaping. We are taking down precious habitats for buildings, for pollution, for bullcrap. When the day that mankind's word was his word, and all you needed was a shake of the hand. Now you got contracts that are not even signed by the person, but by a computer, digitally. Because that's sacred. Money is what? Money? Or is money just electronic form? And I've said this before in one of my podcasts. If everybody went to go withdraw their money out of the bank, I guarantee there would be. It's all numbers. Everything is electronic. So when there is a electronical hiccup, what are you guys going to do? Because back in my day, and I know I'm not historical, and I don't mean that disrespectfully at all. It's supposed to be a compliment, because I love and I respect my heritage as a human being on this planet. And those that are older than me are the biggest, most valuable resources mankind has ever known. And they don't need to be electronic versions. They're human beings. It's called life experience. It's called a reality check. Because eventually it's going to be to the point where things are going to be manipulated so much that eventually that generation is going to be gone and the new generation is going to think it's brand new. Because the older generation isn't going to be around to teach them otherwise and say, hey, this already happened a long time ago, and what you're dealing with, that's a lie. This is really how it is. But they're not going to know that, because nobody's going to let them know that, because the generation that knows the truth, somebody got offended and took that out of history. And now it's gone. And that could just be the fine line that it takes to blow up this planet. One ripple in humanity is all it would take for the government to use to end all of us. So they can hide in their little bitty tunnels and sell property on the moon. That's my opinion. But you know what? If you have a loved one, or even yourself, and something tragic is going on with them, and you're afraid they're going to die, or something, what do you do? Do you pray? What would it hurt? Somebody once asked me one time, what do you do when your soul is shattered? I looked and I said, you pray. And then I realized, once I wiped my tears from my eyes, I was looking at my own reflection in the mirror. I was the one saying it to myself in the mirror. I was shattered. I have this saying of going outside, finding the sun, closing my eyes, and just soaking up that sun, just feeling it. Tears running down my eyes sometimes. I take a deep breath, and I say, I put it all in your hands, God. And I wipe my eyes. I take a breath. And that's exactly where I try to put it. But then I also have to remind myself, God gave me a purpose too. And He gave me 2 arms for a reason, 2 hands, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 legs, 10 fingers, 10 toes. Everything for a reason. Just like you are here for a reason. You have a purpose. You matter. You are a beautiful world. And it's okay if you're in your own world. They know you there. And if you can't trust you and appreciate your world and see the beauty in your world, which is your reflection, what would it hurt to go to God and pray to Him? To help you undo all the pain, heartache, confusion, weakness, all the things that you feel, whatever they may be, that humanity and society has made you continue to reflect and feel like. You might just find that God has a better mirror for you and a higher purpose. Because not all angels fly. Not all angels are dead. And not all angels are white. But that doesn't mean you can't wing life one flap at a time. Take the leap of faith and build your wings on the way down. Just remember who manufactures your wings. Because if it's the government, heaven help you. But don't do it as a stunt, please, because, I'm not recommending anybody jump off a cliff and build rings on the way down. technology is good, but just don't do that. It was a metaphor, okay? I don't want to hear about you on the news that somebody jumped off, somebody jumped off the cliff. Would you, jump off the cliff too? This is not where that comes into play. I'm just saying, what would it hurt to believe in somebody good, something positive, something uplifting? You've got one life to live that you're going to remember. But in the end, I used to say, in the end it doesn't matter, through tears in my eyes. But that's not true. Because in the end, it matters to everybody that loves you, including God. And if you are struggling with something, you have questions, don't hesitate to ask questions. Don't let anybody belittle you and dumb you down for asking questions. With all due respect, who the hell are they? What gives them the right to say that they're right, or they should be able to dictate what you ask, what you don't ask, what you feel, what you don't feel? It's your life. And with respect, you have the right to live it. They have their own life. They have their own world. And there's no right and wrong answers in the world. Because unfortunately, humanity has made it feels like, their mission in life. Nothing is sacred anymore. Everything has been manipulated. But one thing is certain. We all have one thing in common. Till death do us all part. We are all in this together, on this planet. Even if you feel like you're in your own world. We all matter. We all make a difference. Even though the earth is gonna go on, and it's not even gonna know we're here or not. But those around you that love you, it might be the end of their world if you're gone. Love those you can, that you do, that you have a chance to. Appreciate what you have in life. Count your blessings. Don't take people for granted. But mostly, don't abandon yourself. Don't let yourself go. Don't go that way. And if you are suffering with something, I know sometimes it's easier said than done to reach out for somebody and talk to somebody. I, of all people, know that. I just did a podcast, my last podcast on suicide. I'm a suicidal victim survivor, a self-harm survivor. But I have learned it's not always easy to reach out for help. But it's even harder to realize you need it. Be honest with yourself, but don't abuse yourself. All the life of humanity putting you down and making you feel less of a human being and less worthy. Find a way to counteract that with the good qualities that you are. A beautiful masterpiece in this messed up planet Earth. But a huge amazing asset to your world and everybody that's in it. Don't never dumb yourself down or apologize for being you. God don't make no junk. The government does, but God don't make no junk. (988) is the suicide prevention hotline. They do have trained specialists that can help you. Talk to a doctor, psychiatrist, see a counselor. I'm going to counseling. I'm also seeing a doctor. But mainly, go to God. Go to God. Give it to Him. What would it hurt? What would it really hurt? And as always, I always say, if you've given your time up to listen to me, your time is the one thing in your life that you can never get back. And it is priceless and irreplaceable. And if you've given it up to me, I thank you in the bottom of my heart. Because it's the one place, the one thing in your life that you'll never get back. And you shared it with me. And I thank you for that. And I thank each and every one of you for being who you are in this world and in mine. Please keep your head up. Stay strong. You don't carry the whole world on your shoulders, even if it feels like you do. Put it in God's hands. But don't give up on yourself either. Reach out to somebody, reach out to me, whatever you need to do. God doesn't make mistakes. You might make mistakes in your life, and that's okay. But you're not a mistake. That's the key point. You're not a mistake. And on that, I'm going to close out. Once again, I thank everybody for joining me. And I hope everybody has a safe and happy, blessed evening. Good night.